Good evening. This is John Warren, publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint newspaper, coming to you with our program From the Desk of the Editor. We are always excited to share this time with you and to come with an open mic, and we have quite a bit to talk about. Quite a bit has happened in the past 7 days, and as you know, the Voice and Viewpoint is adjudicated as the oldest African American publication. Adjudication means, according to government code, that we are a newspaper of general circulation, so we are in print and online. We also have news bites and the newsletters and the constant posting of comments and information on social media. So it's no longer, as we tell people, this is no longer your grandma's newspaper. We are out there and we are on every medium and we are doing things. And so we're excited about being here this evening. And I'm going to ask Dr. Leonard Thompson to tell you how you can join us in terms of this program, which goes so very quickly.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. You can join us right here on GODradio1.com on Facebook, as well as on the Voice and Viewpoint Facebook page and also YouTube, or you can call in at 858-251-6111, 858-251-6111.
Okay, so this evening, as you know, we've just had some very seismic elections in this nation, and California holds a lead position where we've had a tremendous number of people cast their votes in support of Prop 50. And Prop 50 was a temporary realignment of our congressional districts, which opens up the door for the possible election of at least 5 Democrats out of the 12 Republican seats that are held, because California has the largest number of congressional delegates in the nation, along with New York and Texas. And so it's been a very exciting time, and people stood in long lines to vote. You could see them in Sacramento, blocks long. You could see them here. So many people did the early voting, got their ballots in, which is significant, and over 8 or 80 million people. They were talking about the numbers going up, number of people who did vote and responded. And I think people are waking up to what is really taking place, because this election came at a time in which the supplemental nutrition program, which feeds millions of children and elderly people, were slashed. It took a court order to demand that payments be made out of the contingency dollars that are available. And even after that, Trump was saying he wasn't going to do it all, but his people were smart enough to issue a statement from the White House saying that they were going to respond to the court order. People are still being picked up and locked up. Children are still being tied up. People being taken off the streets. And we have a whole bunch of things going. And speaking of people being taken off the streets, we were just discussing here what happened, and you probably might have seen it on television, where the police from Coronado took a black man to Ocean Beach, and fortunately it was recorded on a video camera as they opened the car and dumped him and his possessions out on the sidewalk, and they did a U-turn and went back to Coronado. Now, for folks seeing the videotape, they're going to be surprised maybe that happened, but this has been happening for years. And Coronado has been notorious for gathering up homeless people and bringing them back across the bridge. They used to just drop them off over here in San Diego. In his case, I don't know why they went all the way to Ocean Beach. Maybe they've dropped him off before and he keeps coming back. Mm-hmm. And so these are some of the things that are going on in California. We are about to go into a budget cycle in San Diego. this is a chance to speak up. We already got increase in water rates, and we got trash rates, and we just, we got taxes on parking and Balboa Park and the zoo and wherever you go, and it's just like if they could tax you for breathing, they would do that. In terms of the kind of crisis that the city is in with its budget shortfall, it doesn't have money, and people don't want to pay more taxes, and so that's a very big issue going on. And of course, we have a county government here, which is responsible for the homeless programs for the most part for all health care because the city does not have any health care programs. All of that is under the county. And so we have a number of significant issues before us, and we need to see that fortunately some people are bracing in this difficult time. The food banks are expecting the numbers to go up. The governor is activating the National Guard to help food distribution, and people are doing without, because even with the court putting pressure on the administration, it still takes time to gear the program up to start feeding people again. And meanwhile, kids want to eat every day. They can't wait 2 or 3 days to eat because you're trying to get it going. And so these are the times in which we live, and these are the problems that we have. On a national scope, yesterday was significant in three different races. First of all, the state of Virginia elected Abigail Stanberger as the first woman governor of the state. And it's very significant because she beat out a black Republican woman who was running. And I'm so glad that our people did not vote color, that they voted content. Because the lady that was running, she was a Trumper if there ever was one. And so Earl Sears, I believe her name was. And so that was a wonderful victory in Virginia, considering how 4 years ago we had Yoakum coming there with all kinds of crazy Trump stuff. And so then we move on up to New Jersey and we have a victory because Mikey Sherrill was a congresswoman there. Mikey was a former helicopter pilot, and Abigail was former CIA caseworker. So they were both members of Congress, and I guess during the time they were in Congress, they became friends and they became roommates. And so they lived together right up to when they went back to their respective states to run. And so in New Jersey, Mikey becomes the governor in a state that has some real weird Republican politics. I don't think most people realize how political New Jersey is. It is something else. And I've dealt with people in New Jersey politics for the past 50 years. And it has always been kind of like a sleeper, but they are politically active. But the real race that was the kicker was in New York City, where Mandani became the first Muslim to be elected mayor of the largest city in the country in terms of people. And he told the president to make sure he turned his hearing volume up so he could hear him. And so it was an interesting race because people like Schumer, who is the Democratic leader of the Senate, and he's from New York, he couldn't really take a position, and people gave reasons why. I mean, Mandani is Muslim and not big about all of the Jewish atrocities in Gaza, and so that was a factor. But he did a grassroots campaign with over 90,000 people on the ground, which is amazing. And we saw at least 2 or 3 weeks ago that Letitia James was out campaigning for him vigorously, even though her own stuff was about to come into court in Virginia over where she's been indicted and she's waiting for a court date and trying to get stuff thrown out. So,
well, let me ask you this question in the sense of, are we really ready for a Muslim mayor with the different acclimates of New York and the different climates of New York. How do they think that's really going to impact?
Well, that same kind of scare stuff was raised when John Kennedy ran for president, and people said, "Are we really ready for a Catholic to be president? Because is he going to listen to the Pope or is he going to listen to the Constitution?" That's just old, outdated stuff. Okay, the bottom line is people have become sophisticated enough to learn how to vote their interests. And Mandani is concerned about housing, about hunger, about all the people. And even Cuomo, who was an outstanding governor during COVID 19, when New York had, especially the state and the city, had some of the highest death rates going from the virus. But he could not overcome the allegations of sexual harassment and misconduct. And of course, people look very closely. You saw at the last minute that Trump endorsed him. That was like the kiss of death. But he made it very clear nobody wanted Trump's endorsement. And I think the very fact that in the midst of the government shutdown, the cutting off of the food, the tearing down of the East Wing of the White House, I mean, Stevie Wonder could see that, what the problem is here. And so people are beginning to wake up. I hope that they are, as Marcus Garvey made reference to the sleeping giant awakening, when people become aware of their interests being at stake. I hope it's enough to get them really mobilized and involved, because it takes more than the changing of the districts. We got to find the appropriate candidates to run. Here in San Diego County.
Well, before we get that, I want to talk about the plight right now of two things. The move of the Democratic Party, since they had a very successful night last night and did well, what would be some of the strategy that you would recommend for them to capitalize on it? Because the bottom line is there's got to be a turn in Washington of opening up.
It's not going to happen, Dr. Thompson. First of all, I wouldn't recommend anything to the Democrats. They've been down this road so many times before, and no matter how long it takes, every time they get a chance, they go back to the same old playbook. I think what's going to make the difference this time is that the American people are looking for change, that you got a element within the Democratic Party like Mandani or AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez out of New York as well, Hareem. They're not even big on Hareem Jeffries in terms of what he's doing as minority leader. And then they have that progressive wing of the Democratic Party in the House, which is not willing to make deals. They were very mad the last time that Schumer made a deal in terms of the budget crisis, and the Republicans were counting on that to happen again. And so there's no strategy for the Democrats. I mean, you know what? You got to break out and get involved with people. And every time they get elected, they pull out the same old people. And I like the beauty of what happened even in San Diego last Saturday when the governor came to San Diego. He came to the UDW, United Domestic Workers, and they had a phenomenal rally. We put clips of it up on Facebook, YouTube, social media. And to me, one of the most significant things about it was not only these people who were members of the union, and they some 200,000 strong now, but the very idea that these people were excited and they were doing cheering and they had been getting out the vote. And who are they? These are the caregivers. These are the domestic workers. These are the people that some 50 years ago, people like Ken M. Sumaji and his late wife, Mahari Jeffries, an attorney, they created the United Domestic Workers. And as I watched these people excited with their shirts and the rally and how they gathered around the governor after the speeches were given, I'm sitting there, my mind is racing back some 50 years ago to Congress when I'm sitting there in committee, and the Congress is going through the committee is going through this thing about whether or not we're going to include domestic workers in terms of giving them the right to Social Security in terms of work and making payment. And it was very interesting debate. I was very young at the time. I was there operating the sound system, but I was still in the room. And the interesting thing about it was that a lot of the conservative, especially the white Republican members of Congress and of the committee, they didn't want this because that meant that they would have to start paying their housekeepers. They would have to start paying taxes and they would have to start taking out Social Security. And they didn't want that. They wanted to keep people in kind of a slave mode mentality where you come and we work and we can do what we want to you, but we want, and to see this whole element overcome all of that in 5 decades. And these people are unionized, they're organized, they're strong, and they get out there and they're all shades and colors. And I love that about them, that they're real people. Mm-hmm. And so those are the kind of people that are going to make the difference in the election coming up. They're real people, and they're going to get boots on the ground right now, even in this area, because if we look at East County, where the boundary was shifted and Darrell Issa has to run hard to get reelected, let's not forget that Darrell Issa is the owner of the Viper car alarm system. So he's got mega bucks. And it's a question of whether or not he has to put his own money up or will there be enough money raised to fight against him. And so these victories are important because Westmore in Maryland just announced that he's moving in the direction of doing some redistricting. And so they're looking at how they can add the Democrats. You see, I'm making a distinction between the number of Democrats that are needed in the Congress and what the Democratic National Committee does and how they function. The Democratic National Committee, and we feel a blunt as our black papers in the country, because every election they cherry pick. They don't really reach out to the whole country. And now they're going to have to reach out in terms of what's going on. So there's a lot happening when you asked the question that didn't have a simple answer because there's so much to it.
Well, again, going to ask questions. Now that we have won, our Prop 50 has apparently will pass with this overwhelming amount of support. Now the question is, do we have electable Democrats to go up against the current Republicans in those areas?
Oh, we will have electable Democrats. You could run Snoopy and get him elected in terms of the kind of stuff that's going on. People understand. When I was an election person in Washington, D.C., many years ago, I helped draw, when I was an undergraduate student, I helped draw the boundaries and create the precincts and the congressional districts in D.C. for the first home rule vote. And then I helped run the first set of elections that we had in D.C. when we were still using paper ballots, and it was taking us 2 and 3 days to count the ballots and how people were marking them. We dealt with the hanging chads and the pencil marks. Mm-hmm. But I'm mentioning this because every election there were votes for Donald Duck and for Brer Rabbit and all of these Disney characters. And people wrote these names in write-ins, okay? And so some of these characters got a lot of write-in votes, mm-hmm. okay? Because that's how one of our city council members got elected about 15, 20 years ago. She didn't make it on Donna Fry. She didn't make it on the ballot, but she out there in Pacific Beach, she did a write-in campaign, mm-hmm. and she got enough people to get elected to the city council, and I think she served until she termed out.
Yes.
Okay, so all of this stuff is very important that people are waking up, and I want to give kudos to Secretary of State Shirley Weber because she really worked hard. She, with the governor, they put an additional $20 million out there to help mobilize people to get involved with this whole thing to make it work. And so and it made a difference. And California is a place where people can vote. You get your license renewed. There's a place to check you off to make you a registered voter. Okay, the only time you can't vote is if you're in a federal prison. But other than
Hmm.
that, you can be homeless, you can be in jail, you can be on the streets, and you can still vote. And she did most of that when she was the assemblywoman, and now she's had a chance to further amplify that in our 53, 54 counties in the state by really zeroing in. And so we have one of the most progressive secretaries of state in the country, and she is doing a phenomenal job in terms of outreach. And she's always comes back home to San Diego. She's always making herself available for the things that happen here. You local people would often forget just who she is in terms of her state influence. All you have to do is go to Sacramento and see the office building of Secretary of State. And it is no small place. I mean, she got a couple of thousand employees there, and they're working stuff all over the place. And we're progressive, and we're doing. So other states are going to follow us.
Hmm.
I believe that Holcomb will do something in New York. And so, because Trump is still hunting for states where he can get the Republicans uh, in an area they can gerrymander it so they can almost guarantee that a Republican can get elected, and that means normally a whites over marginalizing black and Latino people in terms of gerrymandering, which is the redrawing of boundaries in such a way that they only favor the people who are in control.
Yeah, and one of the things I think as we move forward, I think that we have to also watch the other states, and people are sending money to these other states that will fight against it. So there are a lot of outside influences that are trying to impact what the other states are doing.
Well, there might be, but I notice, and I sometimes it's hard for people who don't see beyond where they are. But I can say in the past 65 years that I've watched and been involved in the political process, that California has always been a lead state. California has always been the one that developed the model laws. If you wanted to know how to write a law, turn to California and see what they've already done. California is always ahead of everybody else. And I think that the governor has done such an outstanding job, and he has been a lead factor in fighting against what Trump is doing, that he will probably, he has a very good chance to be a presidential candidate. And other people like Wes Moore, who could be mentioned, the young blacks who are coming along, they don't have to rush. There's plenty of time. But I think that Newsom has come such a long ways from somebody a few years ago they were trying to impeach, and recalled him. And I can remember when he was a mayor, and I wasn't too excited about what he was doing, but he is reachable, he's touchable. You and I saw him with the real people last Saturday. After all of the fanfare was over, he didn't head for his car to take off.
Hmm.
He stayed there with those everyday working people, hands on, shaking hands in his jeans, talking to them and loving
But
on them and hugging them. And he was reachable. He was a people's man.
well, the funny thing is that I was talking to a person about attending the event, and their response was, "I wish I could have went too, because I'd have got my hug." So there was some folks there that was ready to get their hug from the governor. Question comes up right here from Dr. Michelle. So, what is the real reason Trump wants to get rid of the filibuster?
Well, for Trump, first of all, Trump doesn't understand government in the first place. So if he wants to change something, it's because somebody is advising him. Uh, a lot of us have wanted to get rid of the filibuster. Okay, a lot of us have wanted to go into a scenario where that we can have more than just a simple majority. I mean, right now, most things can pass with a one vote margin. You're going to have a tie because you got 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans, and the vice president, as president pro tem of the Senate, he can always come in and break the tie the same way Kamala Harris did when she was vice president. And so I don't think we need to be sidetracked with what he wants. We need to be focusing on how we stop him and the people that he has in place who are doing his bidding. That's where the emphasis has to be on. We need to be looking at every Republican who has been a part of staying out on this paid recess they've had while American people were working and starving and not getting paid. And they need to design a campaign in every one of those districts that goes toward getting rid of these people. And I believe that that can be done. And the more that we have the invisible people, the people who are marching not just every weekend, but now they're marching every day because they're still out there snatching people up off the streets. Unconstitutional behavior on their part. And I believe that when we regain control of the House, that we will put an end to this foolishness with Trump. And we do that by getting rid, when we get Democratic control, Mike Johnson is out as Speaker. Republicans no longer will be able to stand back and watch Trump break things. You know, today, oral arguments were made before the Supreme Court or on behalf of his tariff issue. And it was very interesting, the kind of questions that were being raised when the law is clear on the books. The president doesn't have the right to establish tariffs. The president doesn't have the right to go into states and override governors. The president doesn't have the right to take drones and start killing people in Venezuela and deploying carriers like he wants to go down there and take over the country. The president does not have the right to change the name of the Department of Defense to a Department of War. That's a congressional action. And so Trump is operating from the standpoint, whatever I want to do, he have the right to tear down the East Wing. But whatever I want to do, I got the Congress in my pocket and the Supreme Court in the other pocket, and I control the Department of Justice, so I don't care how you feel about it. He didn't care about how the vote went yesterday because he does not care about the American people. If you think about the 10 months of his presidency, presidency, the first 100 days and what people are doing, it's about how do we address the concerns of the people. Trump has not addressed anyone's concerns except his own revenge. His revenge tour crusade is his prime objective, and so people are suffering. Now, I want to say this, that in some cases, the suffering is certainly justified. For all of you people out there who voted for him because race in your mind was stronger than democracy, because America was getting too brown and too black and too yellow, and you were not having babies like you needed to, and you couldn't import them from Russian countries in the Slavic area as you used to do to try to boost the population, and so you drank the Kool-Aid. And now you're getting the results of the Kool-Aid that you drink because you're getting laid off too. Because when you worship the devil, he doesn't care about you. He just cares about his agenda. And I can tell you, as we carried a story this week in the Voice and Viewpoint, and we let it be known that 48% of Project 2025 has been implemented. 48%, folks, in 10 months. You better be out there voting. You better be out there organizing. You better be out there. And I keep saying, even here, the people that we have in Congress, they might not be the best people that we have. Always reminds me of what Winston Churchill said once. And Churchill said that democracy is a poor form of government, but all the others are so much worse. And so we have to think about that. When I saw Congresswoman Sara Jacobs at UDW with the governor and with the assembly member, and she was up there trying to get into the spirit of stuff, and she had nothing really to do with our community. A lot of people went out there and worked to get her elected, and she went back to Washington because the family brought her way into the Obama administration, and now they got her in Congress, and you know she's like a little girl trying to play grown up and figure out what she's gonna do next. Well, we still need her because we need the number. We 215 to 220, and we got the lady from Arizona that they won't convene the Congress because they got to swear in. She's gone to court to get sworn in because she's going to be the 218th vote. And when that happens, the discharge petition is going to come, and the Republicans going to have to come out the closet and vote against releasing Epstein. And everyone that votes against it is going to make them a pedophile, and that's going to help get them out of office the next time around. Okay, so we got to pay attention to what's going on nationally, folks. And I hope that we can still maintain our friendship, many of us, both with Canada and with Mexico. Mm-hmm. I mean, because the president of Mexico, you know, she sees all of this activity of shooting, blowing up ships and drone activity. It's an infringement on their sovereignty, and it's in their waters. You know, all of the countries have, under maritime law, there's a 12-mile radius, and within 12 miles of a country, that's their water territory. When you get outside the 12 miles, then now you're in international waters, and that's a whole different thing. So let's pay attention.
You know, I know a lot of times when we get on the show, there's a lot of content and things that are coming in. Just wanted to say, you know, we as a caveat of what's going on with the closing of the government, the food subsidies, and all the things that are going on. We start talking about the big turkey giveaways.
Yes, yes.
And there's several ones that are out there. We do know on December 20th, there will be one, and that one will be.
You mean November 20th?
But you know what? I'm correct me because I did hit the wrong button. But there is going to be a turkey giveaway on November 22nd, Saturday.
Okay.
And that will be by Dr. Akila Weber, and she'll be doing it at Madison High School. Okay. And it's going to be from 10 to 1, but you have to go to her page and register. And if you go to her page and register, you will be guaranteed that turkey.
And most people want folks to register because, again, Reverend Ray Smith and that whole effort at Pilgrim Progressive Baptist Church, they're getting ready for a turkey giveaway, I think, within the next 2 weeks. And their giveaway is quite phenomenal because not only do they give turkeys, but they also have one of the dairy companies there, so they have milk and they have eggs because they have a refrigerated truck there, and they're giving people canned goods, and they have like potatoes and all of the things that go together to make for a meal. So this is very important. But most of the places want people to call and sign up. Exactly. Because we know that times is difficult. We don't know how many actual turkeys they're going to have. And we want to encourage you, if you don't need one, folks, don't go take something that somebody else can use.
Or don't go to all the sites, register for all the sites.
And running from place to place. You can't eat but one turkey if you get one.
Yeah, and there's another big one on November 23rd at the Joe and Vi Jacobs Center on Euclid Street. Also, Dr. Lachey Collins, her assemblywoman, she will also be doing her giveaway, and that will, I'll get that information, but she'll also be doing that as well. And then our very own Mama Bear is also doing a meal, turkey, Thanksgiving meal giveaway on November 22nd. Also, you do have to register for her. This is the 10th annual, and she started this as a birthday present to herself to be able to give back to families in the community.
Yes.
And it has grown. I think when we first started off, we were trying to just do 20 families, and then it became 25, then it became 50, then it became 75. This year, it's 100 families. And when I say that she gives a spread, she gives them everything that they need, from the turkey to all the fixings to be able to bake a cake, everything that you need to get together as a family. And her whole thing was, I don't want to cook it for you. I want to make it where you guys can cook it and have that family togetherness and make it happen. And one year, Dr. Warren was really cute. People think that they can come to her event and they get a little turkey and they walk up and they walk out. And the lady said, hold on, wait a minute. What am I going to do with it? We literally had to put all of her groceries in a car and take her home because there was no way she was going to get it there. So we tell people, we're a drive up. You come up and we load your car up so that you literally have as if you had went to the store and shopped.
But everybody doesn't have a car. And so one of the things that we often see at the Jacobs Center when they have the food giveaways is we see people with wagons and we see people with those portable grocery carts, and they come prepared to get the stuff and to walk away with it. And that's important because it's nice to do drive up, but let's not forget a lot of folks just have to walk up. And they can't drive up. So I think that's important. And you know, as I hear you talk about Mama Bear, I'm so encouraged because it shows a tradition is being continued. There's a group of women who do a Thanksgiving meal at the Malcolm X Library, and they take that auxiliary room and they set it up, and they bring all their food there, cooked there, just like a cater situation, and people can come in and they fix a plate and they feed them there for those who come. So folks can get a meal in terms of what's done. And we've always had meals in our community. That's something that we need to let people know. Because even when they were doing the big feeding down at the Civic Plaza, and people were going to volunteer to do that, we still had people feeding folks. Mm-hmm. Before Mama Bear was the Wilson's family that was out there feeding people every Thanksgiving. And so people find some folks in their own little circle. Some churches do it. They try to have a feeding for members. I know my late wife, Pastor Jerry, and we used to always find people in the congregation who were here and they weren't home or they didn't have family, and we would bring as many people as we could to our house, and we would feed them because we had the room and the food, and we fed people, and we did all of that. So it's still good for us to share and to help each other, and the need is greater now than before. Mm-hmm. I know at one point, some 20 years ago, there was a real effort to find military personnel who were stationed here and couldn't go home, and families would take a military person, they'd be in touch with the base, and they would take a person from the military who's stationed here and bring them home and give them a home-cooked meal since they couldn't get home. Yeah. And so that was always good. You know, when I was in the military, I remember Thanksgiving at Fort Jackson, back in 1966. Mm-hmm. And the thing that of course, I couldn't go home for Thanksgiving. It didn't bother me so much. The thing that I loved about it was, in those days, the brothers were the cooks in the kitchen. And a lot of people went home, but those brothers, if you stayed on base, those brothers hooked you up, boy. I mean, they hooked up the turkey and the dressing and all the stuff, and you just eat till you couldn't eat anymore. Yeah. And so I was just hanging around the mess hall waiting, waiting to eat, you know, because it was so good. Now they got catered people, and, you know, they've lost so much. But these people put their heart into it. They were serious when they cooked the pies or whatever they were cooking. They did it with love because that was their task. That was their contribution. Yeah. And so I think we need to celebrate the people who are doing these things more so that we don't just talk about the bad stuff, because there's a lot of good stuff being done. Yeah. And I wanted to do that so we would make sure that we got that information out. Now, this election is over. The special elections are over. Now we're getting ready to go into the big deal, and that's the midterm elections. A lot of things are going on, and a lot of people have to run. Besides just registering to vote, besides just, you know, getting involved, what should be the major strategy
as we begin to go forth, because more people are going to come out the woodworks and saying they're running. And when we first start talking about who's running, everybody and their mom gets out there and say, I'm running. But at the end of the day, you no matter how much you say I'm running, that you have to also qualify to run. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that it's more than just getting a petition signed. So for those people that, because we encourage everybody to run, for those people that are considering running or getting their hat into politics, can you give a quick
Yeah, because everything that you just said, those are all the people doing stuff for the wrong reasons.
mhm.
Okay, it doesn't. That's not the issue. The people. First of all, one has to spend some time to listen and learn what's going on and how the system works. I'm still talking to people who don't know the difference between the board of supervisors and the city council.
Mhm.
They have no idea how it works or what they do. Well, you can't just focus on next year. What about right now? What about the issues before this city council? What about the issues before the board of supervisors? You live in a county, San Diego County, 49% of the people in San Diego County are renters. And yet we have some of the highest rents in the nation. We don't have to have that if we would just get up off our butts, register and vote, and decide that we're going to do something. The people out in the Encanto area of the 4th City Council District, they came out against the ADUs, but they had already been sold out by the former city council member and the present one in terms of making deals with developers. And so we got boards and commissions that people have vacancies that they should serve on. And city council members are not even nominating people for those positions. And that's where you get started. You can't just decide, well, I'm going to wait until May or June and then I'm going to go get involved in a campaign. That's usually a mistake, first of all, because when you jump into a campaign early, you have forfeited all of your bargaining power. So people don't have to worry about you no more. They put you in a bag of chips and go on to the next one. But you have to make people want it. That's like on a national scale when we have the Iowa caucuses. We have those people out there have made it a point that we're going to be the ones that set the tone because we're going to vote in such numbers that people are going to come here to see what the trend is. And we have to get people motivated to vote again and to become conscious of using the process and not just saying, well, it doesn't matter, it's not going to make any difference. And no. So I don't care how many people decide they're going to run for office. We're smart enough to weed them out. We're no longer making decisions about, I like him because he wears a nice tie and she has a nice figure and a nice dress and she smiles and she kissed my friend's baby when she came to church, so we're going to vote for her. That's stupidity. That's stupidity. How about finding out what the issues are? What is your issue? What are you concerned most about? Is it jobs? Is it food? Is it housing? Then whatever your issue is, that's what you make these people seeking your support. Tell me what you feel on the issue.
What's your platform?
Now, I want to give you a warning about platform. I'm glad you used that word because whenever I moderate a candidate's forum, I don't let people do that. You ask the question, and they get up and give you a speech about everything except answering your question. And I cut them off. If you can't answer the question, you ain't got no business serving in the first place. What was the question? What will you do? Will you try to build a coalition? And will you introduce legislation to get this job done? One of the things that was said Saturday about Assemblywoman Letitia Collins was that, she's been there a short period of time and she's already got 4 bills passed.
Yeah.
And when she first went in and I was in touch, she sent me a whole catalog of all of the subjects in the bills, over 20-some bills that she hit the ground running with things that she knew she wanted to get changed. That's what you look for in terms of people running for office. Not, well, she's a friend of my friend and they want me. It's too much of that foolishness in this community. The Democratic Club is a joke. The Martin Luther King Democratic Club, it could be strong. Years ago, I tried to show them what a Democratic Club looks like in terms of what they do in New York. wouldn't even come to the meetings to learn. You try to talk to people, they won't give the time. And so if you're not going to listen, then that's why people don't come talk to you, and you're not going to vote. Why should they? I wouldn't waste my time with you. If I knew you weren't going to listen to vote, I'm not going to go talk to you. I'm going down the street to where I know somebody might vote, because I got a list that tells me who voted last time. Yeah, they got a list. They know when you voted last, and that's whose door is knocked on, and that's who gets the thing in the mail. So these are important issues, Dr. Thomas, and what I just said, Dr. Thompson, is far more important than I'm going to wait and I'm going to get involved and I think I'm going to run for office. And why? Why are you going to run? Just because you want to see if you can get some people to check your name? Running for office is no small thing, folks. It's a big responsibility. And getting elected is even bigger. And I can tell you from having done both many times and having served, it ain't no picnic. Okay? It's serious stuff. And we want people who are going to be serious.
Yeah, and I think that, and as we know that this coming election is going to be a very pivotal game changer, and we need to put our resources, our time and energy among people that are going to not only listen to our concerns, but also act. And also, what I hear you're saying is also know why they're running and their mission of being there. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we come in and it sounds good. Well, the people want me, but what do they want you to do? You know what I'm saying? And what have you committed to do? What do you have the capacity to do?
No, but you put your fingers on it. The first question is, why are you running? And listen very closely to the answer that you get. Not, well, I'm running because, we need housing and we need what? We know what we need, but what are you doing? Why are you? Do you know what the issues are? Have you done your homework? Have you sat down and studied what's going on? 9 out of 10? No, you don't have any idea. You don't want to vote for them. You want to vote for somebody that says, look, I'm learning, I'm here, I'm going to roll up my sleeves, I'm going to put in the time. I need your help. That's where you go, and learn from people who've done it before.
So let me ask you this question in a hypothetical situation with the government being closed, SNAP benefits being downsized to half versus where it was. Can people who are being impacted by this and they get into a food desert and they pretty much go hungry to the point that they pass away, can their family even consider suing the federal government for not providing the food that they had committed to?
No. They don't have a contract with the government. The government provides the food because it passed laws that said it would do so, but that doesn't give you any right to sue the government because you don't get fed. Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for feeding yourself. Okay. We have what we call a safety net, and we have programs that are supposed to catch people to help them, but they're not supposed to become substitutes for work and involvement, because that's the Republican platform. Well, you got to have a job in order to get a benefit. That doesn't make sense. But the people, it's not about suing. Get involved. Get 5 people, and y'all sit down and study. How can we be of help? Get 5 people, and we're going to look at who's running. We got this right now. We got a city council race coming up in District 4, 2, 4, 6, and 8, because they rotate in odd years, even years. And who do we have running? You got Henry running again, and he shouldn't even be elected, but he's running again. And then you got Matt Gordon running. And Matt, he's a nice person, but Matt not going to do any hard work. And then you got Sister Abraham running, and you got different people who keep coming out and withdrawing and the whole thing, because they don't know they got to put all their business out there once they start running. They got to raise some money, and they got to be transparent and the whole bit, and people don't always want to do that. And that's why we don't get the best folks to run for office, because they don't want to go through the exposure that comes with it.
Well, Dr. Warner, what I like is that you said that you encourage everybody. Everybody can run. They just have to be prepared to do the work once they get in.
Got to be prepared.
And I think that a lot of people that are running have some serious issues, and they feel that in this time they are the voice that can bring about change. the biggest thing I think that is once people get into office, how do you work with the current representatives and to hold them to the fire for what they've committed to? Because we're never going to see eye to eye with all elected officials, but if they're in office, there's an obligation to work with your community. And so I
Well,
think that is how I'm saying for me, I think is after the elections are over, we all have to go back and live in the community. So how do we continue to keep the work moving?
well, first of all, you need to go beyond the one candidate that you're looking at, because at the city council level it takes 5, and the board of supervisors takes 3. So you're not just really running in one situation. You need to be in touch with your friends in at least 3 other races if you're dealing with the county, or 5 if you're dealing with the city. And so that if you don't get your person in and you've helped the other people get in, you still have the chance to coalesce the kind of numbers that you'll need to get past what you want to get past.
Now, see, now, Doc, now that's one that is one strategy that I have not heard a lot about, and that is you need to count to 5. It's like on the school board. There's so many people you have to count to, so many to get things passed. Same with the city council. Same thing with the supervisors. And so we support the ones that are in our area. But what you're saying is hit the ground for the people that to build the coalition. Are you a part of the coalition that if we're going to be talking about rents, what do you call it? Where not the rent subsidies, but rent control.
Right.
And that's a big issue for you. You know that you got to get 4 others besides your candidate to come on board with that. And if you can't do that, you're dead in the water because there can be no consensus.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because sometimes you need people other than the candidate in your district.
Yeah.
Years ago, when we were getting ready to do Gold Coast, what we did was we started counting votes on the city council in terms of being able to count to 5. And one of the people we did not include in the count was George Stevens. And he was a representative from the area in which we lived and interacted. But we didn't include George because we didn't want some of the strings that George would bring. So we had enough votes that it didn't matter what George said, or at that time Susan Golden was mayor, or what she said, because we got the votes that we needed. And if you can count to the majority for your interest, then you can do something. And I've been asked many times, well, why don't you do a class for us on government and how it works, interest groups, policy, and how it... Well, I'd be happy to do it if people were serious enough to come. I don't even want to do it on Zoom, because then people are lazy and sit at home, get a cocktail, and tune in and put it on screensaver and go on back to whatever they're doing. No, you have to, back east, people come out at night. People come out at night and they get involved. Chicago, D.C., Atlanta, Philadelphia, all these major cities. There's a whole government, informal government structure at work after the sun goes down. Everybody is not grabbing a brew and headed for the beach and just kicking it, because now it's recess time. It's work time. And until we catch on to that, we will never have all the things we should have. We will still be controlled by a handful of people who have manipulated the politics here so that they get benefits. And we won't do our homework in terms of learning how do we change this. And it can be changed.
Well, again, like I said, I think that was a beautiful nugget that you just dropped about not only supporting the candidate in your area, but realizing that in certain areas you have to have, 4 other candidates that can push your platform and the agenda of your area forth, as well as, you can support the things that are going on in their area. Well, Dr. Warren, we're about 5 minutes out, and I want to make sure that we spend some time on what's coming up next in the Voice and Viewpoint. I'd like to talk about the gala, and I believe today was the last day that people could have nominated for the humanitarian award. I didn't know if they were extending it, or is it?
No, we're not extending it. We're accepting nominations for it, and we're gonna make the decision in terms of who gets the humanitarian award. I'm very uh, protective of that because I know how much my late wife put into this community and how serious she was. And I already see some people getting their friends to call right in 4 and 5 times to nominate them so they can stack the deck. That's not going to work. I mean, uh, like
And I think that's the key thing, Doc. It doesn't matter how many times people have recommended. The recommendation is being reviewed based on the quality
we're
of
going to
who
look at
that
who
person
they
is.
are and what they really do and what they've done. And so this is not let's go find an award.
Yeah.
To me, it's a very special award, and it has a lot of meaning. And it should be the person getting it should be representative, just like our Good Shepherd Awards that I give to pastors. I pick those pastors based on what they're doing with their churches. I'm not looking for a great big church or somebody who came out of a certain cemetery environment. I'm looking for people with the heart of Christ and the compassion for folks. And so that's what we're looking for. People who want to serve rather than be served. And that's the key because too many people nowadays want to be served and they want recognition, but they don't want to serve.
And so the gala is coming up. It is in February.
The gala is February 13th. It'll be at the same place. We plan to have tickets at $95. We don't want to go to 100, 150 like a lot of people are doing in such a difficult economic time. It's going to be a first-class event, as it always has been in the past, and it's going to be black tie, so people got a chance. If you don't have a tuck, if you got a black suit, you got a chance to get a suit and a necktie so that you can be appropriately dressed and not be turned away.
And I think that that's the key. I hear a lot of time you talk about it is a black tie event, and that where there's for lack of a better word, it is a dress code, and that people that are come in have to be black tie because it is that type of evening event. This is not to say that it's not community. It's really trying to raise the level of what a gala looks like. When you look at the galas over history, that was a time where people came with the long dresses and the men were in their tuxedos, and we're trying to bring back that elegance back to our community.
The what they call, we were the people who instituted the term gala. And people don't realize that. And everybody's chicken dinner is a gala. That's not a gala. A gala is a dressy affair. It has ambiance. It has a program. It has class. It can have dancing. It's an affair that's more than just let's come together and have a rubber chicken dinner and give somebody a little glass plaque. It's got to have class, and we don't give out any cheap awards. And we don't try to stay there all night in terms of it. We got it down to a science thanks to your help and the way we stream it. And if you want to know what a gala looks like, you can go to our YouTube Voice and Viewpoint Gala 2025, and you can see what it was like this year or 2024 or even during the pandemic. We did first class with the entertainment and what we provide for people. And the ambiance and the food and the service, all of that. Yeah. And so we hope that people will start early. This year I'm inviting back all of our past recipients of the Good Shepherd Award. It's about 12, 15 pastors that should be coming together. There are sponsorship opportunities for people to come. And we don't want you to wait till the last minute. The tickets are going to go on sale probably within a couple of weeks for the gala. And separate from that, we're also working on a Martin Luther King piece, which is very special because this year at the Jackie Robinson Martin Luther King breakfast, about 2,000 people, I will be their keynote speaker. Last year, I was the award recipient.
Yes.
They asked me to come back and speak to them this year. And so that's going to be a big thing. I want to remind you that next week we have Veterans Day. We have a major story in our paper about how it started, and we have people who were a part of that. My wife's great-grandfather was a recipient of the French Legion of Merit Award, which is their equivalent to Medal of Honor in World War I. And so we acknowledge all of these people. And so pick up the paper, learn why and what our role has been. We've had over 100 black men receive a Medal of Honor, and at least one that got it twice. And we know that there were more that should have, and these succeeded in spite of the racism against them.
Well, Dr. Warren, believe it or not, we are at the end of the show. And just want to say thank you so much for the information that you are sharing on a weekly basis. This has been from from the desk of the editor, right here on GODradio1.com. Y'all have a good evening.
Be blessed.